All right, there we are. Hi, everyone. It's Sarithkin from Ontier. I'm here for the Murder of Dukes interview with Duke Dietrich well, he reigned in Atlantia, and then he lived in Ethelmerk, and now he's in Trimaris. So welcome, Your Grace.
Thank you. Good to be here. And I do spend some time in the other kingdoms as well. I travel a fair amount.
Okay. Have you lived in
like
other
2
ones?
weeks ago, I was up in Ethelmark teaching a class for one of their virtual fighters universities.
I saw that. So did you actually go? Did you actually go up there?
Yes, I did. I had a business trip up there, and while I was in town, may as well make myself helpful, right?
Yeah. I think you posted it on your YouTube, maybe.
Okay. Yes, that's right.
I'm kind of a fighting junkie, so yeah.
Well, you see, I got smart about it. I'm like, I know I'll be up in Ethelmark a lot for business, so I left a suit of armor at my Ethelmark office. So when I'm in town, I've got stuff to put on for it.
That is smart. That's smart. All right. Well, I usually start these with your SCA origin story. And what I mean by that is like when you found the SCA, what you were interested, that kind of thing. So if you want to start there, and I will try to share it where I need to share it, that would be great.
Okay, absolutely. So this was in Savannah, Georgia in 2007. My wife and I were at the park, and we saw a bunch of wackos hitting each other with sticks in armor. So of course, as ex-prize fighter, now a boring old businessman, I ran up to them. I'm like, hey, put me in armor so I can hit people and not go to jail. So they put me in the armor, and I spent the day hitting people, and I didn't go to jail. And then I went home. I ordered a bunch of kind of munition grade off the rack armor. It came in several days later. I got it all rigged up, padded and whatnot. And then I went to an SCA event. This was in Meridia's in the Atlanta area. And I said, okay, where do I fight? And they said, you have to authorize. I'm like, okay, well, let's do that. And the king was like, okay, how long have you been fighting? I'm like, my whole life, sir. How long have you been SCA fighting? 1 week, sir. Okay, do you see that guy? I want you to go fight him. I'm like, oh, sure, whatever. Yes, sir, whatever you want. And he said, you seem like you already know a little bit about fighting. You beat him 5 times, you're authorized. So, okay, I went out there and whooped the dog shit out of this guy, to be honest. I got the hang of calibrating properly a little bit afterwards. But I was authorized. I spent the day fighting. It was a blast. At the end of the day, the king said, hey, okay, you're actually pretty decent at this. What are you doing next week? I'm like, well, I'm going to work, sir. And he said, can you take the week off? And, well, yes, sir. Why? You're coming with me to this event called Gulf Wars. Ooh. Hey, do you know how to fight with a spear, by the way? Well, yes, sir, of course. So Gulf Wars was my second event, and I was basically hooked at that point.
Wow. So I've never been to Gulf Wars. Last year was supposed to be my first year. Tell me how magical it was for it being your first event and all of that.
Well, considering the event where I authorized was like a baronial level event in the Atlanta area, where there were people. We did melees, but the melees were like, I don't know, 25 people. So then all of a sudden I'm out there in it was this town battle. It was the first day, and there's hundreds and hundreds of fighters. I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. And my job, they said, who here can run fast? They grabbed me and a few other people and made a sprint into the town. We had to get to this position and hold it. And so we sprinted in, we crashed into the first unit, and they called hold because there was bodies and shields and swords and ass flying in every direction. And they called hold. And one of my buddies who ran in with me was sticking out of one of the hay bales. Like, you can just see his feet. And I'm like, Judge, can we take him out and like take this guy out of the hay bale, give him a proper burial at least? So I had no idea what I was doing in terms of SCA, but it was a blast. I spent the whole war fighting.
I was gonna say, did the king put you up in, a place to stay and loan you some stuff to wear, or how did that work out?
Good question. So I didn't have a tent or anything. So we stayed at I got a nice little hotel off site. So my first war camping event was a little glamorous like that. And I had bought some basic garb and I bought some more at war. So, I wasn't exactly macking out, but, I looked like I was somewhat medieval.
I think staying in a hotel is a much wiser choice than going there and not knowing what you're prepared for and freezing your butt off all night and eating out of cans. So I applaud that completely. Adult decision.
Mm-hmm. To be honest, the past several years at war, my household has set up my tent and everything, and that's kind of my base for during the day. But then I go back to the little B&B in Slippery Rock. I'm not much of a camper, to be honest, Sir Rithkin. I'm very light sleeper, and noises from highway or drums or whatever it is will keep me up.
I'm the same way. I glamp quite a bit. I stay in hotels quite a bit. So no judging from here.
Yeah, no shame in that game.
So did the medieval part of it pull you in too? I mean, was that something you were ever interested in, or is it something that your interest grew as you played more?
I would say my interest grew. Initially, it was, wow, I can still be an athlete and a warrior, without getting hit in the head for a living. It was the sport that attracted me to it, but it was the people and the culture that really kept me in it these 13 years.
So I'm sort of interested, you piqued my interest with this whole prize fighter thing. I know that you're super athletic and that you work out all the time. I should have, pulled a picture and flashed up one of your, your beautiful pictures of your chest or whatever, but I didn't. So you dodged a bullet there. But so tell me about your fighting background and how that worked into SCA fighting for you.
Certainly. So my original, career intent was I wanted to be Special Forces combatives instructor. And so I was super into, into military and whatnot, martial arts training my entire life. And due to a health issue with seizures, I wasn't eligible for that path. So, okay, well, I've spent my youth learning combatives, maybe I can make a few bucks with it. It was what I thought as a 18-year-old. And I did make a few bucks with it, but I decided I didn't really want to be doing that the rest of my life. And I came home from a tournament in Japan where I just made, for an 18-year-old, was fantastic money. Didn't even make it to the finals, but pretty darn close. And there was good money for that. But came back with a concussion and rethinking my life, and came a letter saying, hey, why don't you come to our college? We'll give you a full ride because you did well on some SAT test or whatever. They're like, I kind of like that. I'm gonna go be a businessman. But as far as combatives go, my background is primarily Aiki Jiu-Jitsu. But I've blended that with everything I've come across. So, no one, you can't even remotely recognize my unarmed combat style as any one thing, because everyone's different and different things work for different people. I do the exact same thing with medieval sport combat. My longsword style, the Tao of Dietrich, is a mix of Kenjutsu and Lichtenauer Talhofer. I take what works from that, I take what works from that, and just blend it together. So
that's cool. So when you were doing fighting professionally, was it MMA or?
Nowadays, it would be called MMA. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So how did that translate for you? I mean, it obviously translated pretty well. The king's like, wow, you're pretty good. Let's go to golf wars. That doesn't happen to someone on their first event, but obviously the footwork and the range and all of that had to have transferred, right?
It does. I have a mindset that I try to teach my students and anyone who wants to learn from me, that everything you know about fighting is universal. You know, you don't have, oh, I'm really good at rapier, but I'm not good at cut and thrust, or I'm good at armored combat, but I'm not good at battle of the nations. I teach that it's all the same. Footwork, timing, tempo, measure, you know, explosive power, speed, combos. To me, they're universal. So I came into this with a very confident mindset that I can do this. I know how to fight. And that served me very well. At that Gulf Wars, I was out on the pickup field, and I felt like I was doing really, really well for myself. And this this knight with he was left-handed. I'd already fought a lefty and did awesome against him. So I'm like, okay, I get it. You know, I don't really care what hand their sword's in. It was this knight with a big heater shield, had like these really beautiful like blue and white and yellow colors on it. There's like a yellow crown on it. I'm like, wow, this is terrible. It's awesome. I'm like, hey man, you want to fight? And then King Ragnar Blackhammer beat the shit out of me. It was amazing. So His Grace threw me my first real SCA ass whooping, and I was very, very appreciative of that. That kind of pushes me to be better and stronger. It's funny, I'd taken off my heavy cuisses earlier, just had knee cups on, and His Grace got some leg shots in. So
you do dabble in cut and thrust and rapier as well, right?
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah.
You could say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay. I didn't mean to diminish what you do by saying dabble, but
no offense taken whatsoever. Right. I love. I'd say cut and thrust is probably my favorite of the three primary SCA combat arts.
So, from like before you were even knighted, you were putting things out on YouTube. I remember back in the day, like looking at your channel, and you would put out some pell drills and other things. Do you think it's your fighting background that sort of just gave you the confidence to say, this is how I'm going to train, and this is how I'm going to develop my training mindset, and you just went for it? Or
good question. So some might say exactly like you said, it's because I had this background in fighting, and fighting is familiar, and this is fighting. Some might say it's my ego.
Well, I think, but you get an ego from having confidence, right? Like.
Well, yes, but what I always try to do is make sure that I'm always bolstering other people and pushing them up, rather than pushing anybody down. Right. So let's be honest. Do I have a high opinion of myself? Yes. But I try to make sure that everybody else has a high opinion of themselves too, and to call them out for their successes, and you know, kind of make everyone great.
Well, right, which is sort of what I was getting at with the YouTube thing, is right away you wanted to share what you knew and yes. how you were being successful with other people so that they could be successful. I thought it was awesome.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, one of my men-at-arms at the time, like I was teaching at practices and traveling to practices to teach. And I was like, you know, I'd like to do more teaching this year, but I don't really want to travel that much more. And he said, why don't you do a YouTube channel? I'm like, can you set that up? So he set that up, and then we started doing videos for it, which is cool. For the most part, we were just taking videos of what I was already doing at practice or some backyard stuff, and just publishing it. And people seem to really enjoy it.
So I've noticed that you really like longsword, but you also, when I met you, you were fighting sword and shield. What's your favorite? And did you start that from the beginning, or have you morphed over time?
Okay, so longsword is my favorite. It is near and dear to my heart. I studied kenjutsu, and you know, using the katana is very, very, very similar to using the longsword, and I blend a lot of those techniques into it. Actually, one of my signature techniques, the X cut, is right out of kenjutsu, as you know, the do or hoodie wrist cross side cut that people seem to have a lot of trouble with, but you know, sword and shield is my, if I'm applying for a job like king, you know, prince, I'm bringing sword and shield. because that's what I'm most effective with, especially against other sword and shield fighters. I did have the pleasure and fortune to become their Timothy and Gabrielle's champion at Ethelmark's tournament that determines that just fighting longsword, and fought all sword and shield people. But I think that's just because a style clash. People aren't used to fighting against someone with a longsword who doesn't just stand there like this and do that basically.
Right. So you characterized how you go for crown kind of like as applying for a job. Is that how you saw it? Was it a goal from the beginning? Like, what was your goal? You came in, you're like, this is really cool, I love to fight, and then you figure kind of out the game. So what's your goal once you figure out the game?
Well, I wanted to be the best, or one of the best. I wanted to be a Duke, and initially those were just athletic, kind of personal glory-driven goals. But you know what, Rithkin, as I continued and grew as a person within the SCA, I realized that I wanted to be king because there's so many people doing awesome stuff, and I want to recognize them for it. I want to help people have fun and just enjoy this. That this hobby that everyone spends thousands upon thousands of dollars on and drives hundreds of hours every year to attend. I wanted to create smiles and help people have fun.
And did you squire to somebody?
No, I did not.
Never.
Nope.
Do you have some mentors? Like from the outside, Atlantean Council looks very rigid, and maybe I'm totally wrong. But it seems like they don't knight a lot of people, and it would seem like it would be a detriment not to have a knight or somebody to speak for you in council there. So how did you?
My goal. Good question. My goal wasn't to be a knight. That just kind of happened. Honestly, I thought long and hard about whether I wanted to accept that. And I got some really good counsel on that. That was, Dietrich, you can do everything you want in the SCA without joining us and accepting a belt. You don't need us, but we need you. And there's a lot of people who you could help and who you could have a lot more influence on helping other people if you did have that accolade. And when I heard that in December 2013, that kind of changed my thoughts on it a lot.
I actually love that, because I think that is a great mindset to go into with any peerage, is that you shouldn't need it, but you should add to it if you get to be a part of it. I love that.
I mean, yeah, I had my own household. I won 45 tournaments as an unbelt, wow. Including multiple of Atlantia's premier tournaments, with Dukes and Knights and everything. I didn't really think about being a knight until then. But then I'm like, wow, if that magnifies my ability to help people enjoy this, to help fire up the hearts of young fighters, to help inspire and teach. If that increases my ability to do that, then yeah, let's put the chain on.
So is that something they told you like right before they offered you?
No. Well, right. This was about 4 or 5 months before that.
Okay. Well, still pretty close.
Yeah.
So how long were you fighting before you were winning tournament after tournament after tournament?
Well, let's see. I didn't win a tournament my first year. I finaled in my first tournament, and usually I'd make semifinals or finals. But that first year, I fought in 7 tournaments, and there was always someone better than me.
Right.
and that's fine. I like it when there's those challenges. 2008, I won my first tournament in January, and won a few more. It started to build, but then 2012 was my year where it just took off. In 2012, I fought in 16 tournaments and I won 14 of them. Wow. Including a Ruby Jazz tournament. The ones that I lost to in Candlemas, where Duke Ailenon just whooped me. Thank you, Grace. That was a lesson well learned. And that was the quarterfinal. It was in the Sweet 16. I don't remember exactly when. but I don't feel shame about my performance in any of those tournaments that I lost because, you know,
right.
It was a big deal. But 2012 was the year where it all took off for me.
And so let's talk about that, because it's not very long after you started. I mean, at least on sort of a SCA timeline, at least now, where it can take, 20 years to get knighted. Did you approach fighting from the beginning like a sport?
Yes, I did. Like, this is a sport. This is a combat sport. We who practice it are athletes, so I'm going to train for it like an athlete.
Can you explain your training regimen?
Yes. So what started in 2012, which again was the year where I began doing high intensity interval training with a coach, Coach Eric, and he just kicked our asses every day. Like the first workout, he made us go through this horrible high intensity interval training routine, and me and these other fit people are just dying. I'm like, oh wow, coach, that was an incredible workout. Thank you. It's like, what are you talking about? That was the warm up. I'm like, oh dear. Like, oh no. So high intensity interval training has been one of my big secrets of success, if you will. Not that it's a secret because I won't shut up about it. But if you think about it, we're not running a marathon here, and we're not doing bench press here. What we're doing is bursts of intensity. So we're fight, circle, 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 fight, circle, circle. So if your training mirrors that, like 20 seconds of just all out intensity, 10-second rest, 20 seconds all out, the ability to increase your energy output that quickly pays huge dividends.
So I know from following you on YouTube that you have created some high intensity workouts for yourself on the Pel. How do you, if you do, separate like working technique on the Pel with high intensity?
Okay, good question. So it's high intensity more so because it's continuous. Then I'm not doing it at a very high level of strength or speed output. I would say about 50% power, 75% speed is good. That'll still get your conditioning really going. But I don't teach and I don't recommend just beating on that Pel like it owes you rent. That's going to blow out your joints and kind of exaggerate any errors in your form, I think. So relatively low power on the Pel and reduced speed. You want to build flow with your techniques on the Pel rather than you're not trying to flat snap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So because I have you here, Duke Tim from Ethelmark is giving you a shout out. He says he got better in the 2 years that you lived next to him than he had in any group before that. So
thank you, guys.
Taking what his grace said, I think you're like the perfect person to talk to about like if people really want to get better while we can't have events and fight each other very much or at all. Like, I guess some people have bubbles. I have a husband that lives with me. Nice. How would you tell somebody to take this next 7 months and use it to their full advantage?
Well, what do you want to look like when you come out of those 7 months? Do you want to be a lean, chiseled killing machine? If so, that's very doable. But this is a time where you're not going to get a lot of helmet time, to be honest.
Right.
If you have a small practice or a quarantine mate or a fighting pod or whatever, you might get some helmet time. But if you think about it, how often do you fight when you're seriously intense in training? 2 times a week, 3 times a week? We're not going to get that. But what you can do is you can work out either every day, twice a day, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, whatever works for you, your fitness level, your schedule. Each of us can come out of this quarantine in the best combat conditioning shape of our lives. If you have home gym equipment, great. If not, you have the best gym equipment possible, your body weight. there is amazing things that you can do for combat conditioning with your body weight. That can include wind sprints, that can include burpees, push-ups, squats, mountain climbers, tuck jumps, tons of things you can use just your body weight. And another great prop that pretty much all of us have is a sword. This is an opportunity to really master your sword technique. So pick your core techniques you want to work on. I pick 8 at a time so it fits in a Tabata, but you could pick 4 and then repeat it. So you do all 8 sets with 4 techniques, 2 techniques times 4, whatever it is. But you can come out of this with just outstanding, precision and form, as well as physical conditioning.
Very cool. So let's talk about you getting knighted. It doesn't sound like it was a surprise because they sort of gave you a heads up a couple months before, but was it a surprise? Did you have a vigil?
I was given a writ at old school at a war practice, and my entire household had driven a long way for that event because it was it was in Virginia. Most of my household was in South Carolina or North Carolina. So, and I had an inkling of what was up. So the writ was in June, and then Penzik was when I was knighted.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So did you have friends from out of kingdom at Penzik? Like, was there a reason why you wanted to do it there?
I did have friends from out of kingdom. I had traveled. I lived for a short while during this time in Tremaris. Started my fighting career in Meridias and have a great many friends there. And I'd also made friends with folks in Anstiora, even Drachenwald. And so, yeah, Penzik just seemed like the place to do it. Knighted right on the battlefield before the field battle.
Do you have a favorite piece of regalia that you were gifted?
Probably this chain. This chain, it's a fairly simple knight's chain, but it was left for me by my friend Sir Christian von Nuremberg, who had helped me train for this HEMA tournament a couple years before that. And he and I had become close friends, and I was really honored that he left me, that he sent along his chain, even though he couldn't be there.
That's very cool. So how long after getting knighted did you win crown?
1 year.
1 year, okay.
Yep.
And was that a focus? Like, were you training for crown, or do you just train the same all the time?
I trained the same all the time. We decided in like October we were going to fight in November crown, and my consort at the time, we just went to crown and did our thing.
I know you have this fighting and tournament background. What do you do to get in the correct mental state for tournament?
So I'm a big proponent of breath as a method of controlling the mindset, the heart rate, the body, the attitude. And I want to go into that tournament just ice cold focus. No warm up, no pre-fights. I go into it cold, and I just plan to win each fight as quickly as possible, and just mow right through it. And I have the mindset that that I'm going to win. That if anyone wants to fight, we can do pickups later. Right. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to apply for a job. I'm here to win this. If you look at the videos of the crowns, they're fairly quick fights, because it's just kind of bursts of focused intensity.
Like execution, you're there to execute, right? Like, mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So crown is a bit different than other tournaments. there's kind of a different mindset for Crown versus other tournaments for me anyway.
So explain that.
Okay. Any tournament that I fight in, I'm fighting for me. This is fun. This is what I enjoy doing. I want to go out and win this, and it's a feather in the cap, and it's for me. Crown, those 2 times, that was for my consort. I was carrying her honor. She wanted something, and I wanted to give it to her. And I wanted to give the kingdom something too. I wanted to give the kingdom a wonderful queen. So, and I wanted to have the ability to walk up and tell somebody, that is a lovely stitch on that on that doublet. Did you do that yourself? Wow, that looks great. And then off I go, and that person, their event is made.
Right.
So I look at Crown as much more of a service. I'm here to help other people. This one's not for me. And without the inspiration of the consort, I couldn't even begin to win Crown.
And did you come to that conclusion before you won your first Crown? Like, you had already made that leap?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The first Crown that I attempted was in 2013, and I lost in the semifinals. I was fighting Sir William Thomas, and I threw a pump fake that he bit on that went to a crosscut to his leg, and the shot connected. It was wonderful, but somehow his battle computer processed all of that and processed that had a tiny little opening, even though and he fired into it, and that it was clean, it was hard, it was well fought, and then the day he was the prince. So I underestimated my opponent's ability to process all the OODA loops that I was creating in his head.
Cool.
The observe, orient, decide, act.
Yes.
Usually a good pump fake, they'd be thinking, wow, that shot's coming at my head. No, it's actually not coming at my head. It's, oh, my thigh hurts a little bit. Was that shot good? Yeah, it actually was. And then I can disengage safely during that time while they drop to their knees, and they can finish the job. But not only did he process all that, he processed that there's an opening and that I can get it before I drop to my knees.
So let's talk about the OODA loop for a second, because you do combinations, and you practice combinations. Is that something that you're thinking about when you put together a combination?
Yes, absolutely. If you look at the targeting of where my shots, where my lead ups for the shots go, it's entirely meant to overwhelm the opponent's battle computer and their ability to process. I've recently developed a just insidious opener that I call the King Snake. And this really messes with the OODA loops. And like a super elite fighter like His Grace Tim is going to be able to process it and see through that initial King Snake Molinet. But it's the follow-ups from it that then come into play. So if I lead off that King Snake, then goes into a thumb lead and a head wrap, that's a whole lot that someone's asking their computer to process.
When you're designing a combo to overwhelm your opponent's fighting computer, are you thinking about like working the box, or like what do you think about?
Well, I try to direct their focus where I want it. Once focus is directed somewhere, it takes mental energy to redirect that focus somewhere else. So again, with the King Snake, it starts off low, sweeps in front, and comes across like that. So the focus is here, low. Then it's over here. What the hell is he doing with his, oh crap. Right. So I drew it here, then I drew it here. The actual target is here, but if they're a high level fighter, I expect them to block that. So then once they're like, yes, I got that block. And then the next shot comes into the armpit and the next one across the shoulder blades. So it's a matter of drawing the focus where I want it to be, and just creating too much for them to process and react to.
And when you put together a combo like that, is that something that you would work into your Pell work hit drills, or is that something
yes.
that you would? Okay.
Yes. The king snake looked so stupid for like the first few weeks I was working on the Pell, but now I'm told it's rather it flows rather nicely.
Right. So like anyone else, right? Like you come up with something, you're like, I'm going to try this, and it's awkward for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think people need to know that like even people that are really, really good and super fit like you, they go through these awkward phases when they're experimenting and they're being creative. Like that's just normal.
Definitely. Yeah. There's absolutely no substitute for hard work. And it's the hard work that gets you from, I have this cool idea for a shot that's gonna be hard for people to block, to actually implementing it against high level opponents. If I had started that king snake on day one, his Grace Tim would have eaten me alive. I don't really want to get hit by him.
So I will go on to you raining, but I just kind of want to take this to the next step. So you come up with the king snake, you work it out on your Pell. Then do you take it to practice and see if it actually works in practice and not just in theory?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Also, I don't worry if it doesn't work at once, because Pell work is grand and important, but fighting a human is different. I can try and predict and program for how to react to what they do, but people are unpredictable. Right. So if something doesn't work right away, I'm probably not going to throw it out or give up on it. I may just be like, okay, let's tweak a few things with this and figure out something that's going to overcome the issues I'm running into. Like the scientific method.
Yeah, when would you, like, how long would it take you to decide, well, this works on the Pell, but I can't get to where I need to get, and this isn't going to work in practice?
I had a few shots like that that I kind of discarded, like a reverse hip offside followed by a back edge retique, followed by a shot to the armpit with the front edge. I wasn't able to generate power with that back edge retique for it to be good by Atlantean standards. So instead, I would change that into that reverse hip offside to a short stem Molinet that comes with plenty of power.
Okay.
Right. But you just kind of realize this is going to work, or even if I get really crisp with landing this, there's just not enough oomph on it to keep this in my repertoire. It's a low. I don't like low percentage success chance shots.
Well, right. Like Sean always says, like, if it's not going to work on the top 2%, then it's not really a good tool for you in your toolbox, right?
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Okay. So let's talk about raining. Do you have a long tenure as prince in Atlantia before you step up as king?
6 months.
6 months. Okay. So go ahead.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you do during that 6 months to prepare yourself for reigning?
Not a lot, to be honest. Okay. No, I mean,
no, that's cool.
Yeah, if you think about what are the duties involved in being in Prince, is basically going to some events and smiling and complimenting people, catch people doing stuff right, spread some cheer, maybe give out a few awards if their majesties want you to do that for them at an event they're not at. But there's not a lot of responsibility as prince. And then as king, again, I'm there to help people have fun and help people be happy, make court enjoyable to go to, as opposed to, oh God, it's another court. Make it, have some theater, have some shtick, make it something people want to go to, not only to see their friends recognized for all their hard work, but like, wow, that court was fun and it was short enough that the chair I'm sitting in didn't put my butt to sleep.
Quite a few of the people I've talked to like sort of have themes for their reign, so they can like have this theme or this overarching sort of shtick during their reign. Did you do something like that, or was it something else?
Well, we had a theme. We had persona theme for the reigns. Like the first one was a Norse reign, and the second one was a Middle Eastern Ottoman reign.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. I mean, Norse was cool and everything, but having the Middle Eastern reign, no one does that.
Right.
So people got excited, like, wow, I get to make new garb for this. The Middle Eastern Guild were super excited about it because they got to be kind of have the spotlight on them, and kind of a more fringe group got that exposure and got to feel like they're on the cusp of things.
Right. I mean, the royalty do set trends in the kingdom. Like our kingdom is very Viking, but we've had a whole influx of people from other kingdoms that have come in our later period, and now we see so much more later period. So I love that you guys took a culture that isn't done all that much and really spotlighted it, because it's so cool. Like Turkish is so cool, and it's so comfortable,
isn't it? I got to wear pointy shoes the whole reign. How cool is that?
Very cool. Seriously cool.
I called this one guy up into court to give him an AOA or something, and I was like, wow, I have pointy shoe envy. Look at this guy. And I put my pointy shoe next to his, and his was like, it was freaking magnificent. Yeah.
What was your favorite part about being king?
Really seeing the faces. I saw people's faces just light up with joy, with tears, with just, we met a Laurel who'd been doing this for decades, decades of hard work and mastery to her craft, and her being recognized with this ultimate accolade on her path, just completely amazing. But you know what? I also love when that newer person giving them their AOA, because that's kind of when they come up and get their AOA, they've been acknowledged. Like, you are one of us now. We're keeping you. We what you do is noticed and valuable and appreciated, and we're glad you're here. The AOA conveys all of that with just a simple little circlet and a scroll.
Did you like the part about being king, which is sort of shaping the culture and leading the kingdom? You like that part?
Oh, very much, very much. Okay. So on the one hand, my kind of leadership style is follow me and let's have fun. If you don't want to have fun, that's absolutely fine too. You go fuck off, play golf for 6 months. You don't have to have fun, but everyone who wants to, follow me.
Who doesn't want to have fun, right?
That's kind of the idea.
Right.
At the first Pennsic when I reigned, I remember one of the dukes of my kingdom came to me and said, so it was basically the mid-realm versus the entire known world, and we decided to ally with the mid-realm. So, we could have 2 armies instead of just a curb stomp. And honestly, it was still kind of curb stompy, because we were so badly outnumbered. We took a beating every day. And every day I would rally the troops and give a speech and get people fired up and excited. And, we have this entire army of opportunities of glory that we can go out there and just take. Every man and woman here can have his fill of, and so every day everyone got fired up to go out there again and get our asses kicked again. And he was like, it is really rare to see anybody who can get people so happy and excited about taking a beating like that. So that was fun.
Do you enjoy melee fighting as much as you enjoy tourney fighting?
Nope.
No.
Nope. So don't get me wrong, I do enjoy melee. But
I don't at all, so I'm not judging you. So.
Oh, okay. I fight spear pretty much exclusively in melee if I'm serious about it. And I won't lie, I do fairly well with it. But first of all, tourney's more fun for me. Second of all, I have to be very, very careful in melee because of my knee. I suffered a torn meniscus knee injury from getting hit in the knee in 2014. And the doctor was like, well, we can do a surgery, which carries its own risks. And I treat post-surgical patients every day who have terrible complications. Or you can do PT and probably get about the same level of ultimate results. PT, yeah. But that is a weak spot for me that I have to be very, very careful with when I'm fighting.
Yeah, that's my issue too. I just I feel like that for me, what drew me into SCA fighting was the chivalric, honorable one-on-one. Give your opponent every benefit of the doubt, and and I think that all goes away in war. Like it's a totally different animal, and that's cool that people like it. It's just not my animal.
Let me tell you something though. The last Pennsic that I went to when I was king, I've been separated from my army, and I'm out there fighting, and I've got my spear, and I'm doing my work with my spear, and it's on. You know, like it seems like every time I fire, someone leaves the field, and then as I'm backing up to dodge some enemy spears, my knee buckles, I trip over a body, and I go ass over tea kettle. And Duke Felix of the Mid-Realm stops his battle line, marches over, helps me to my feet, and personally escorts me back to my army.
Aww.
So the chivalric dream is still there in melee sometimes, but you're right, it is much more visible in single combat.
I love that you told that story. I have never met Felix in person, but when I interviewed him, man, that guy is a kick.
He is. That was the first time we met, I believe. And obviously that left a lasting impression with me.
Right. Okay, so were you king both times? Was it a Pennsic reign?
Yes.
Okay. Was that intentional?
Yes, I loved it. It was awesome.
Okay.
It was an absolute blast. Because then you have the whole kingdoms there, and all my friends from other kingdoms, and just doing the thing with the war council, and I it was great.
So a lot of people say, when you're reigning, you don't have a lot of time to fight. Do you find that when you're reigning, or now that you're a duke, that you get better pickups than you did before?
I actually did a fair share of fighting during the reign. What I didn't do was compete.
Okay.
Okay, let me clarify that. I competed a lot in cut and thrust. But my first reign I competed in cut and thrust. My second, I didn't really compete much because they made me a white scarf before that. But I figured the first reign, hey, nobody. I'm not as well known in the rapier community. Why shouldn't I compete? I
think it's amazing that you do. I think it's great to support the different martial disciplines while you're reigning.
Mm-hmm. So. Oh, absolutely. And in Atlantia, there are very strong ties between the rapier and the armored community. And my entire household would armored, rapier, cut and thrust. We even had some combat archers. And then at our practices, we'd have rapier, we'd have armored, we'd have people crossing over back and forth. Very, very close knit. But I chose not to compete as king because it's not about me when I'm king. As king, I saw myself as servant number one of the people, and I don't want to be like, yay, look at me. Okay, fine. When I'm not king, all bets are off.
Right.
But so if I'm fighting, it's as king. It's because I'm doing authorizations. I'm doing pickups. Maybe I'm fighting a buy fight. Stuff like that. Again, all bets are off though at inter-kingdom events. So last time I went to Australia and I competed in the Australia Outlands prize tournament.
You can't go to Australia and not compete in the Outlands.
Yeah, there was like 170 people competing in it. And I fought in the known world cut and thrust tournament at Australia and Pennsic. And why shouldn't I compete in those?
Right. Well, you should. You should, definitely. I think that's a good sort of rule of thumb. I think we have sort of tradition in our kingdom too, that the king doesn't really compete in kingdom tournaments, just because there's sort of a weirdness about, the king should be better than everybody else or whatever. And I don't know.
Let someone else shine when you're on the throne is what I think,
So
my role is more to acknowledge their success rather than pad mine.
So I know this isn't STA related, but you also competed in longsword at, was it Battle of the Nations or was it? Yeah.
Battle of the Nations.
And you specifically just went to do like singles longsword, right?
Correct.
So tell me kind of about that, because I know you did really well, and you trained really hard. How was that experience?
It was quite an experience, let me tell you. So the day before the tournament was where I would fight other challengers from the US. So we're fighting, and I believe I was fighting Avalok, who had been our longsword champion before. And somebody was knocked flying for a nearby fight, smashed into the side of my bad knee. So I hear a loud pop. Then I'm staring up at the sky, beautiful bright blue sky, wondering why do I do this? So I finished my fights, limping through them, and then so that I was chosen as the longsword champion. And the next day, I fought to the best of my ability, given that problem I was having. And what I found was that my swordsmanship was more than up to the task. The X cut, the back edge, my signature shots were lighting up the scoreboard. And when I was fighting the Russian swordsman, our first 20 seconds went by, and he's behind on points for the first time in his career. So he adjusts his strategy. He comes in, he manages to grab the hilt of my sword, or the blade of my, I don't remember exactly which, and then begins wailing away on the knee that I'm limping on.
Oh.
It's a different culture. That if it's not forbidden, it's permitted.
Right.
He's an athlete there to win a fight. So I don't hold any animosity or rancor. I lost to the better man.
Right.
But I did my
what
best
he needed to do to win.
Yeah. I did my best to recover from that, but I was unsuccessful. So he beat me by 2 points, 2 hits. So then I had to face, this was the semifinals, round 1 of the semifinals. So then I fought round 2 of the semifinals to determine which of us goes home with the bronze medal and which of us goes home with 4th place and no medal. I didn't fly all the way out there to not come home with a medal. My lady at the time was super supportive, and all my friends at work were up early in the morning to watch. All my SCA friends were tuning in to watch. And that 4th place person, I just blitzed him. Barrage of my absolute best longsword techniques, and he crumpled under them.
So besides the fact that the culture is different, is that something that you would do more of if your knee wasn't an issue?
Probably not. I get asked that a lot. Hey, what if you went into this and didn't fuck up your knee the day before the tournament? You'd probably do even better. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. But this was a bucket list item that I wanted to cross off to show that me, a boring old businessman, can compete with athletes from all over the world.
So what keeps you interested in the SCA and fighting in the SCA?
Well, at this point, what's keeping me is the people who want or need my help. When I moved up to Ethelmark, I kind of figured, okay, I just had an amazing SCA fighting career. Did Battle of the Nations, did HEMA, everything's great. I guess I'll hang up my hat and my sword and just kind of focus on other things. Duke Tim was having none of that. He and his wonderful family and household rolled out the red carpet for me. Got me that feeling of I'm helpful and needed, and people want me to help them. So like he wanted to win crown for his wonderful wife with sword and buckler, which nobody has any right to win crown with sword and buckler in a kingdom of big heater shields. Well, he did it. We practiced together every week. We trained in the gym together all the time. And I felt like I was important and needed. Also, all the younger fighters, the unbelts, the visiting knights and whatnot, they really wanted to work with me. So I'm like, okay, well, retirement, nope, I'm gonna keep fighting then.
And you still have that connection, right? Because you just went back there and taught another class.
Right.
So now that you're down in Trimaris, do you have connections there? I mean, it would be really hard because you moved there during the COVID thing, right?
Yes. Any practices we have here are, I only go to very, very small practices. I've been to 2 since I got here in August because I'm very, well, first I'm busy. I have a lot going on in my life.
Right.
But you know, my good friend Count John just moved down from Atlantia. And I wanted him to feel like, you know, hey, welcome to the area. Let's fight. Let's meet the locals, you know, etc. So I went to a small practice with him last week. And I have a lot of connections here from the brief time that I lived here before.
Okay. It's just it seems like it would be a tough time to move somewhere else and to feel connected, I guess. Yes.
Yeah, it is. This is certainly a time where everyone kind of feels adrift to some degree. Me less so than others, just because I'm so busy with work.
Right. Well, one of the things that really strikes me about you and that impresses me about you is that you take every facet of your life and you aim for success and you work super, super hard. And I love that you brought that into the SCA and that you sort of sprinkled it to your household and over YouTube and have shared your work ethic, because it's pretty amazing. Your work ethic is,
thank you,
amazing. So
thank you. You honor me.
Anyway, we're almost at an hour, so why don't we look at your swords? I see a whole bunch back there and I'm very interested.
Certainly. So this beauty is a long sword that I had made for cut and thrust. You know, this has beautiful, amazing balance to it. You know, it's basically the same length as I use for my armored combat longsword. It has enough flex in it that I'm not really worried about hurting anybody, but it also handles like a sword, not like not like a Schlager. This is a Regenier, which I believe is a Polish armorer, swordsmith who makes these.
Very cool.
So jumping over to rattan, you notice I have a heavy wire basket and 1.25" shaved stick. This is how I make every sword. So this sword, the blade is full of helium and broken promises. It just handles like a lightsaber. It is magnificent.
Did you say helium and broken promises?
Yes.
Okay.
It just floats.
Okay.
All the weight is right here in my hand, and the counterweight just makes it go zoomy zoom.
How long is it?
I learned this craft by accident. So I thought I was good at making swords before, but at Gulf Wars, I had broken my sword earlier that day. And then I was called to fight one of the heroic champion duels. I'm like, well, I need a sword for that. Should I just grab my long sword? And then His Majesty was like, oh, don't worry. You can use my sword. It's right there under the Atlantean tent. So, okay, I trot over to the Atlantean tent. Which one's His Majesty's sword? Well, they're the royal shields. Well, Her Majesty fought too. Turned out the sword that I grabbed was Her Majesty's sword. And I went out there with this just wondrously balanced sword and, just tore my opponent up. And I'm like, wow, okay, well, time to learn how to make swords properly. I thought I was good at it before. I wasn't. I learned that I like having the wire basket and with just a really light stick. For a serious tournament, I'll have a thrusting tip. I don't really use thrusting tips much when I practice because I want to practice other things.
How long is your sword?
I'd say about 34 inches, maybe 35. Okay. It's not super long, but I'm fairly tall and I have these long, monkey gorilla arms, so I can get away with the
shorter sword.
Yeah.
So did Her Majesty teach you how she made her sword?
I haven't learned that. She didn't. She said go ask Kuhn.
But it was Signy's sword.
Yeah, so I learned from Kuhn. This is more of a Battle of the Nations style longsword, with the full shorter blade. This is really fun to train with. I can do cut and thrust with it. It just requires a much higher level of control, and it's less forgiving of mistakes. Which, okay, that's fine. Some of my friends and I, we can certainly practice with these. But this is more of a Battle of the Nations style sword. And then finally, we have an SDA longsword. I measure from my underarm to the ground. I actually have a construction guide in the Tao of Dietrich. There's an appendix that teaches construction for it. So what you'll notice is that this also is 1.25 inches shaved. I don't want a heavy blade. I want the balance on that blade as close to here as possible. So I have a very, very heavy pipe cap and heater hose quillions. Lightest quillions possible, heaviest counterweight possible. And from underarm to ground in length. So
I love those heater hose quillions. That's what Mark de Arundel does too. It gives the sword such a nice weight and balance.
Yeah, he knows his business.
So if somebody wanted to find the Tao of Dietrich, where would they look?
Me. I just need an email address, and I'll have a PDF emailed to them right away.
Okay.
Well, maybe not right away, but
All right. So they know you're Rob Hunter on Facebook. So if you are interested in the Tao of Dietrich, which I think I think everybody should be interested in all the information they can get. I am. Hit up Dietrich.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not something I would ever let anybody give me money for. It is absolutely free. Here you go. Just email with a PDF attached. Have fun.
Cool. All right.
The whole point of writing it was to be able to spread my style, my teaching farther from folks that I get to spend face-to-face time with.
Yeah. I love that you wrote something too. I'm a collector of that kind of stuff. I don't have it back there, but I have a notebook like this big. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So we'll do the final 10. What event have you never gone to that you would like to go to?
A lot of them. Ursulmass. I've been to some of the. I've been to some of the bigger tournaments, but that's one that has fighters that I probably haven't fought before from Antir and the northwestern part of the West Kingdoms, Eldermere. That would be a really cool tournament to go to.
Yeah, we get a lot of people from Avacol, Antir, West, and
Avacol too. Yeah.
I think it's a lot like I've never been to Candlemas, but I think the formats are very similar. All right, if you could fight anyone in the world, who would it be?
I would like a rematch with His Grace Branos. The last time we fought was in the semis of Candlemas, and he had gotten some book on me during the tournament that day, and I pump fake, stutter step. I've got him dead to rights with the thumb lid to the armpit because his shield's out of position. He'd seen me do that to a few other high rolling fighters, and he managed to back out of it just enough that all I got was a whiff of chainmail, and he got this like laser precise shot an inch above my knee, and so down I went. He defeated me handily, and I love someone who can do that. I'd like to see if I can change that trend.
He's so graceful about it too. What's your favorite Pennsic story?
Well, my first Pennsic was 2012. And so we trolled in, and I'm going out to the fighting area to get inspected. And I hear someone yelling, "Dietrich, hurry, we need you for the Allied Champions battle." I'm like, "The what?" I'm like, "Just hurry, get over here, bring your spear." Okay, fine. So I run out there with my armor and my spear, and like, "Okay, whew, you're here, get in. I'm like, "Okay, what are we doing? Just kill them all?" Like, no, you have to hit the flag. So, okay, fine, I could do that. So we engage the enemy line, kill, 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 kill. And there's the hay bale with the flag. I run up to it. The knight in front of me has a polearm, and I toss him my spear, and he stops and catches it. And then I grab the flag and make off like a gazelle on PCP. And I am just booking it. Problem though, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with the flag.
Oh, that is a problem.
So I run to the other side. I run kind of across my backfield with lots of people chasing me. I have no idea where I'm going. I run out of space. I turn around, evade run back. There's still tons of people chasing me. And finally, I notice people yelling, Dietrich, Dietrich, here, here, here. And Ursa's got this amazing picture of me running up finally and capping that flag. But even though I have no clue what the hell is going on, I was having the time of my life.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who are your favorite people to watch fight?
Well, Duke Alanon is magnificent. He's a speed range combo fighter, and just the absolute apex of what that represents. Duke Hans from the West Kingdom is just incredibly fluid and graceful and precise. Duke Tim is a cave troll who just moseys on in and just beats the crap out of whatever defense you try to put up. Duke Brian of Sacred Stone has on his shoulder like a 6-pound telephone pole. And if he swings it, I mean, blocking, okay, you block it, it knocks the shield out of the way, hits you in the head, knocks you down. There's something like darkly beautiful about watching him do that to people.
I got to fight him at the last adult swim I went to. It was super fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I called him as my champion last Pennsic to fight one of the heroic duels for me. And in my speech, I even said, be warned, whatever champion you may call, blocking may not save you. I gave him fair warning. And Brian still did exactly the same thing he does to everybody.
Yeah. Do you have, go ahead.
No, that's good.
Okay. Do you have a hero or a mentor in the SCA? And if so, who is it?
I've been fortunate enough to have several kind of, hero fighters who I've learned a lot from. Duke Logan Ebenwolf, when I lived in Meridias, and he lived in southern Atlantia, he's the one who taught me my hated thumb lead shot that everybody despises. I drove up to his house for practice, and we're fighting. He hits me with it, and a few minutes later, I hit him with it. He's like, "Where did you learn that?" I'm like, "From you, sir." Like, no, I didn't teach that to you. Yeah, you did. I probably have a little red mark there from where you just taught it to me. His style is awesome. Duke Alanon was another one when I was in Meridias that I learned just a ton from. And although we go about things very, very differently, I also have a lot of Duke Bryan's style in my style too. A lot of times you'll see me switch to a sword leg lead, sword back, shield square. And I do a lot of his shots from there too, although I use my physical attributes rather than his.
So the first adult swim I went to, you were fighting Sean, and you went to go throw the thumb lead, and there was a light above you, and the light went poof. I got it on video, but that's like my favorite. Like we were watching you fight, and so epic. You're very cool.
That was actually Count Ivan from the East Kingdom where I blew up the light.
It wasn't Sean?
No, it wasn't Sean. Oh. If you go back and watch the video, you'll see.
Okay, cool.
Sean and we didn't blow up any lights, but Count Ivan, it happened just like you said. I took that sword leg lead guard, because he's a lefty, and he fired at the wide open offside, and I dropped under the corner of my shield and threw this just baller offside thumb lead that made him lie down on his shoulder. And would have been absolutely fine, but it took out the light in the process of getting there. And so then he was like, "Oh, good." And then there's shit raining down on us, and it's like, what exactly is going on here? That like you're not supposed to stand in that. Like, stand in what?
Oops.
Yeah. And so His Excellency and I are the reason why you can't have nice things.
If you had to recommend one event for someone to go to, which one would it be?
Well, that's kind of broad because different events are so focused towards different things. But honestly, I have to say Pennsic. I don't think there's any SCA experience quite as magical as pulling into down that, what is it, Zion Road or whatever, and just seeing row upon row of pennons flapping in the morning breeze, seeing all those amazing tents, hearing the sounds, there's nothing quite as immersive as Pennsic.
Yeah, cool. What book do you think everyone on the path to knighthood should read? You can do a movie if you're not a book person. Like, it's whatever.
Most of the period books that I've read have been more technical rather than literary. So I've read, the various fighting manuals and whatnot. I would pick Robert Taylor's Ivanhoe, or the actual book Ivanhoe.
Cool.
Yeah, personally, I think usually the book is better than any movie or game, but I actually prefer, in this case, the movie to the book, which is a little more, abridged.
Yeah, cool. I think that's on my watch list. I'm educating myself on all these obscure movies.
Robert Taylor's Ivanhoe and Knights of the Round Table are the best. My favorite medieval movies.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna make sure they're on the list. Definitely. Okay. Well, this one's, what is your favorite in-kingdom tradition? But you can pick whatever kingdom. You've been everywhere, so.
I really like in Meridia's the sheer level of courtesy that's found in the fighting community. It is amazing. And I keep referencing Elenon, but the way he describes it is, we give our opponent the benefit of the doubt rather than giving ourselves the benefit of the doubt. And that's just, I think that's just kind of integral to what fighting culture should be. Place your trust in your opponent. If they've struck you and they've struck you cleanly, and give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
And I think that just really makes the fighting community enjoyable. You don't have as many bad feelings. You're not blowing out your joints trying to deliver an 11.
Right. It is sort of a golden rule. So
give your opponent the benefit of the doubt instead of yourself.
Yeah. All right. Last question. What do you think is the most important trait to become a successful fighter?
Well, there's lots of possible answers to that, but I think it's up here, to be honest. You need to have a winning mindset. Lots of people who otherwise could be great fighters limit themselves with their own imagination of what they think they're capable of. I'd like to see more fighters kind of believe in themselves, have that confidence. I don't really say fake it till you make it, but you're not going to make it if you don't think you can. So that kind of winner's mindset, I'm here, I'm going to win this fight, I'm going to go on, I'm going to win the next fight too, all the way to the finals. I think it starts there. We could talk about athleticism and physical gifts all day long, but unless you have that mindset and discipline, it's not going to let you compete with the apex predators.
What would you recommend to somebody who wanted to find that mindset but doesn't know how to go about it?
Find someone to work with who does. It's something that it's harder to internalize it and just kind of create it. But if you work with someone who kind of coach you in it, if that's what's missing for you, then if you have a knight who can kind of help you find that confidence, set a role model that behavior for you, that'll make a big difference.
Well, thank you, Your Grace, for talking to me and accommodating my schedule. I really appreciate it. This has been great. I've learned a lot.
My pleasure.
So
my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This is amazing that you've put this show together and gotten so many just outstanding Dukes on it to rap for an hour.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. It's been pretty cool. So thank you everybody for joining us. Tomorrow I'm talking to Duke Tom from Northshield. That should be very interesting. He's I think a great weapons fighter, so we'll get a different perspective. So that'll be cool. So thanks again, your Grace, and thanks everyone else, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Good luck with your training. Wear your mask, social distance. Let's get through this.
Definitely.
Sorry, just using my voice there a bit.
I think it's perfect.
Mm-hmm. All right.